So as we all know, Mark Zuckerberg has been trying to suck the jiba of the CCP from the get-go.
Been trying to zuck it.
Remember, he
Zuck
was
the jiba.
running in the smog around Beijing. He jogged
I
around.
love to run in the smog.
And he tried to, he asked Xi Jinping to name his kid, and Xi Jinping was like, no. The thing is, like, Facebook is one of the first big sites that got blocked in China.
Yeah.
I remember because when Facebook actually, believe it or not, when it first came out, I started using it like when it first came out. And I was in China at the time, okay? And it worked really well. And everybody like that I knew, the other foreigners that I worked with and stuff were all using Facebook.
I used to chat with my Chinese friends on Facebook.
My Chinese friends were using Facebook. My students, everybody that I was like talking to was using Facebook. And then it got blocked.
Yeah.
And then it opened up again after like a week or two.
Yeah.
And then it got blocked permanently. Okay, so it just got completely blocked because the Chinese government was like, you know what? We can't control what's being said here.
The government.
We don't like this. Yeah, the government. The Chinese government said no, and they shut it down. So, of course, Zuckerberg's been trying to get favor with the Chinese government because he wants it to be available again because it's a huge market he's missing out on, right?
Yeah.
So he tried all that sucking up to Xi Jinping.
Zucking.
He married a Chinese wife. I don't know if he did that on purpose.
I don't think that's related.
I know, but I mean, it might be. There's
you
no
could say
chance.
the same thing to us, my
Yeah,
friend.
but I mean, we didn't try to curry favor with the Chinese government.
This is very true.
Anyway, I'm just saying, like, obviously that's probably like not related, but it could be. The fact that he tried to get Xi Jinping to name his kid.
You wouldn't be currying favor if it was about China anyway. It'd be a different food. What food would that be? Maybe like a chow mein.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so the thing is, it didn't work, okay? And he's been shut down every step of the way. But we know he's always wanted a big piece of that pie.
I mean, who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Especially back in the day when it was kind of okay to be like, yeah, I want to expand into China.
Exactly.
You know?
Anyway, it seems like things have changed a little bit recently because
Yes.
I got to tell you, out of all the companies recently, Facebook seems to be taking the best action against what's going on.
Because they got stung.
Yeah.
Got stung pretty bad.
Anyway, let's see what's going on here. You've prepared this, so you talk about it.
Yeah, so this is actually beyond Zuck. He didn't spearhead this campaign.
But he had to go along with it.
Yes, this is probably some sort of like third-party intelligence group, things like this. You know, these groups that go around and try to find where things come from?
Yeah.
This is probably where this stems from, but they actually did something about it. So I give props to Meta for this.
Yeah, so...
Because other platforms didn't.
Yeah, Zuckerberg actually... He's responsible for this getting shut down at the end of the day.
I mean,
it doesn't matter if he had like someone like with the thumb screws on him saying, do it. He did it. Like
Sure.
his company did it.
His company did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Meta, what they did was it was the biggest Chinese influence campaign that's ever been caught.
Yeah.
And what this was misinformation, right? It was
course.
disinfo campaign.
That's what they do.
And what happened was on February 27th, there was an article that claimed that the United States was behind the bombing of the Nord Stream underwater pipelines. This is actually something that popped up on my radar before.
Dude, I was like, what the hell? Again, I saw all of the shills running with this.
Yes, but what you saw them running with was the origin. So I want to backtrack and kind of show you how this went down.
Okay, explain it.
So there was over 7,000 Facebook accounts, which we've seen thousands of these accounts, right?
Sure.
And what they were doing is something called spamouflage. What that is basically the Chinese government came up with a mandate that they wanted to push out there. We see this all the time. Spamouflage is basically when the Chinese government or any government comes out with a mandate, right? And they say, we want this to spread around, but we want it to look organic. We want it to look like other people came up with this
You know what?
idea.
I got a great little thing for that. I'm going to tell you right now. You remember this? Hang on. Do you
White-tailed deer. White-tailed deer.
White-tailed
Great
deer.
analogy. So Winston and I back in the day were actually propositioned by the Chinese government.
Yeah.
They didn't know who they were talking to.
No.
And they tried to pay us, was it $2,000?
$2,000
To say that COVID came from white-tailed deer in America and not from
Yes.
China, right?
And some other YouTubers did actually
Took the money.
and actually did it, or at least they did it. They said, obviously,
we
they
didn't
took
take the money, and then we exposed the entire campaign, which led to a big
White-tailed deer.
thing.
White-tailed
Obviously, these
deer.
third-party networks go around on behalf of the Chinese government and pay people to go put stuff out. And this is what happened here, right?
Yeah.
So this was on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok, X, all this kind of stuff, right? And so they took down this big network, and the best company out of all of them was Meta, who capitulated and took down all of these accounts. Or they might have even had their own team that identified this. I'm not sure about those details yet. However, What I do know is where this came from.
Right.
And that's something that's not being talked about in the articles.
So just to reiterate here, 7,704 Facebook accounts, 954 Facebook pages, 15 Facebook groups, and 15 Instagram accounts tied to the Chinese campaign were removed by Facebook.
Correct.
Meta. And that's a lot. And this was all surrounding this Nord Stream pipeline conspiracy theory.
So I want to show you where this comes from.
Okay. Take a
So
look.
if we backtrack a little bit, we figure out where this kind of stems from. You're going to see that this article that is, I only saw one article talking about this bust, actually talk about what article they're talking about. And it's this one, right? It looks to be this one. This is from Xinhua, which is China's top state media.
That's like number one.
And what this says, it says, interview, Spanish expert blames U.S. for Nord Stream pipeline blast. I increasingly believe that the incident that led to the breaking of the gas pipeline was a result of an action by the United States, a Spanish political expert said on Monday, noting the aim of which was to break the German dependence on Russian gas. And his name was Josep Pulsek. However you pronounce that, right?
Okay.
Now, the important part of this is that it looks like this came out on February 28th, which is 27th for America's time zone, right? And what it looks like is that this was the article that was being propagated throughout this whole campaign, this influence campaign. Now, why would China want you to believe this? Well, they want you to believe that anything that supports Russia in this argument, right? They're paired up in their propaganda departments. And also it causes distrust in American institutions.
Yeah,
right?
it makes people blame America for, doing terrible things.
A lot of times when you see something that looks like it's really trying to paint America bad, but from the perspective of a caring American, all this kind of stuff, a lot of times it's either stemming from Russia or China.
Yeah.
And this was one of those ones that actually got caught.
Yeah.
So this is probably the article that they're referring to. It's the same date, right? However, this article actually stems from something else that was posted a few weeks prior to that. And this was in an attempt to wash that article.
Sure.
And what we mean by that is it's another way to camouflage. That's why I call it spamouflage.
Yeah.
Is to take a thing, wash it through another publication, translate it, and then have organic users spread it around, just like that white-tailed deer thing.
Yeah,
we're
the
mentioning.
white-tailed deer, yeah.
So we look at this. There's still some examples of this spamouflage that exists.
Yeah.
You find all this kind of stuff. You see all these random websites that have this.
Yeah, it's like Vietnamese and
Yeah.
everything, but it's like
It's got some Chinese, but it's got an English article about it, right? And you can see that there's spamouflage about this kind of stuff all over. You see this exact quote. This is on Cent Trading Account for beginners in trading. You know,
Yeah, why on earth would that have this Xinhua article on it?
It's everywhere, right? It's all over the place. You can find just piles and piles of this article that was spread around on all kinds of things, and it's exactly that article from
How
Xinhua.
to be a forex trading coach. I increasingly believe the incident, blah, blah, blah. Come on.
Right. So this had a huge effect because this was translated into tons of languages. It was put on all kinds of stuff. But the initial idea came from this guy named Seymour Hersh, who is an old school award-winning investigative journalist, right?
Yeah.
But he's gone off his rocker. And
What?
he posted
Okay.
this Substack called How America Took Out the Nord Stream Pipeline.
Why does it say February 2023 paid? What does the paid mean?
I guess because you can pay for...
Okay, you pay
he's a
for
paid
this?
user or something
Oh,
like
okay,
that.
all right.
Anyway,
Just checking.
this original one is what inspired that Spanish blog article that was posted in Xinhua.
Yeah.
And this is actually the one that Chinese media is quoting the most, but the article involved in the bus is the washed version
Right,
of
right,
the
right.
Spanish one.
But
Just so
this
you're
is the
clear.
one that Chinese media quotes, is the Seymour Hersh one.
Yes, and had a lot of people spread this as well.
So who's Seymour Hersh?
So he's this guy.
He's this
He's an
old guy
investigative
here?
journalist, yeah, and he's done good work, but he's gone off his rocker. And then all you have to do is do a quick Google search and see he's appeared so many times on Chinese media about this Nord Stream pipeline thing, blaming the U.S. Right.
Right.
And it turns out this is the genesis of this conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
That was proliferated in so many languages and not even attributed to him sometimes. Right. It's just this. This is the proof. This is the evidence. Has already been exposed.
Right.
And the Chinese media, framed it as such. He tells the truth. This is what happened. This is absolutely what happened. Russia didn't do it. This kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then it was spread around on all kinds of other platforms as fact.
Yes.
And I saw it on places all over the place. So I just
Well,
want to
let's
go through
see.
some
Okay, so
examples.
China Daily, of course.
You have
What
the
about-
Global Times.
Is that Global Times?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Global Times. U.S. should give responsible explanation for Nord Stream blast, and this is
China's foreign
and I can
ministry.
see it. Even the foreign ministry is even saying like
Seymour
Hersh
See this?
in his latest article accused
This
the US.
this went to the top
Yeah.
in China, right? This was something they really thought was very important to get out there. There's him with Liu Xin.
Yeah, on whatever her stupid headline buster, or what is The Point or whatever.
The Point. Yeah.
It's another.
CGTN.
That's another like Chinese talk show, propaganda talk show in English.
Right.
Right. The shills appear on that a lot.
And you have evidence of this going all the way down.
CGTN's exclusive interview with American investigative journalists.
Yeah, there's him with him in his chair. They wrung it out, and it was so obvious. You can see a motivation very quickly when you see an authoritarian government like China or Russia try to use something and really hammer it home.
RT Russian, propaganda.
But look where this was posted.
Rumble, yeah.
And this was all over Rumble, okay? Yeah. So this was actually something I noticed on Rumble. The washed version from Chinese media. This was posted on Rumble over and over and over again from different unrelated channels.
Yeah.
And it was channels that had nothing to do with this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I actually put up an example a little bit later, but there was things like a lot of preppers were posting it.
Right.
And like people in that community, right? Mm-hmm. You have things like this. This was on Quora, right?
Former bank manager Henry Young.
So many. I did an expose on Quora, how Chinese government uses it for propaganda.
Of course.
Quora, by the way, reached out and told me to tell you guys that they're looking into it, and then they never reached out again.
Yeah.
And it's even worse now. There's more of
Quora
this stuff now.
is a Chinese site now.
It says, hold on. Site, Did the U.S. blow up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline? So people put these straw man questions on Quora, and then they have pre-made people like bloggers write like what the Chinese government wants them to say. So it says like, my guess is the U.S. blows it up, and
No, my guess is the U.S. did the blow up.
It did the blow up.
That's great English.
It's good English. Anyway, do you see his source that he posts? New corroborating evidence emerges showing U.S. trace behind the Nord Stream blast.
Oh yeah, see. It's Seymour Hersh.
And where's it from?
Pandora's box, incriminating SputnikNews.com. SputnikNews.com. Okay, yes. Russian propaganda.
Which is being filtered through Chinese propaganda, right?
Yes.
But this whole campaign is spearheaded by the Chinese propaganda.
China Daily, US behind Nord Stream sabotage, says expert. Again, Seymour Hersh.
And this is, again, Seymour Hersh is down there, but this is washed through that Spanish journalist. And this is the article that was posted everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Then you start seeing it all over the place. I mean, there you have it again. It's a classic photo of the pipeline burst, right?
Yeah.
And you have this all over. It's being washed all over. But continue. I want to show you something else. I started to notice this popping up elsewhere as well. Here's a prepper channel, right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with anything, but it is verbatim the article.
Yeah.
Right? It's verbatim the article. And this was being shared around like it was gospel.
I think the Chinese government and the Russian government are very smart because they go for the
impressionable people.
It's not about impressionable, but the fringe groups. People that are dissatisfied with the American government and they have a bone to pick, and then they're always looking for something that they can jump on to say like, you see, the government's against us. The government's like, there's a reason why we have to do what we do. That kind of thing.
This has been caught as a disinfo campaign from China. Like it's not what I have to explain, this isn't like you have two opinions.
Yeah.
This was caught as being a psyop from China, and these companies removed the content because it was caught as a psyop from China, and there's people currently saying, no, that's what happened.
That's because they've been all this.
It's part of this,
I mean, if you are being told by people that you trust, so maybe you're following a shill or a prepper channel, or you're following one of these alternative media things, and you've been fed this, you're apt to believe it, right? But that's what China wants. That's why China has proliferated it so much. That's why China created all these 7,000 fake accounts and these thousands of fake news articles that have been pushing this article to every alternative media source around there.
Yeah.
And that's what we do here on the show, is we just show you where that news is coming from, right?
Yes.
Why did your favorite conspiracy theorists talk about this?
Right, and that's exactly what we're dealing with here.
I mean, well-known shill over here, same thing.
Verbatim video. You have Jerry Good, well-known shill, verbatim posts, right, sharing this around. You have Cyrus
King Shill over here. Seymour Hersh.
He's King Shill now.
Yeah, I call him King Shill.
I call him Golf Shill.
Yeah, Golf Shill. I think he's the most effective because he seems very reasonable.
Yeah, cause that's how this works, right?
Yeah.
You got to have different
you have your different. You have your attack dogs, and you have your sort of moderates, and you have your actually,
I'm an ambassador.
Yeah, we need to work together. Yeah, America and China need to work together. As long as America fails and China gets the benefit of it.
And by the way, do you know the Seymour Hersh guys?
And do you know that America actually is really bad and China never does anything anything wrong. It's that kind of like thing. Anyway, so
you just saw this being shared out, and this is the genesis of a psyop from China that has been caught.
Well, if all the big China propagandists are pushing this, oh man, is this at the gray zone or whatever?
Caitlin Johnstone, another tanky sphere, right? And she says, my
Seymour
sources
Hersh.
corroborate Cy Hersh's Nord Stream report, right? This is called spamouflage, like I said, and I think this is just one. You know how it was the biggest bust, like of the.
Oh, there's so much big, like, dude.
There is insane things, but what to show you some of this, what happens is the Chinese government comes out with a mandate of something that they want. They might artificially create it. We have no evidence that the Seymour Hersh thing wasn't completely fabricated by them from the beginning, right? Sure. That's up in the air. What I do know is when the Chinese government has a mandate and they want to do something, they'll take it, wash it to make it look like they didn't do it or organic, and then filter it out through insane amounts of networks.
Yes.
And oftentimes what we found is that maybe a marketing firm in New York City will get accosted by somebody in Hong Kong that wants to promote this story as a form of advertising. And what it is actually from the Chinese propaganda department washing it multiple ways until it gets to America, who then filters out money and divvies out the responsibility. And it's huge. And oftentimes, and the more I do this, the more I look into this kind of stuff, the more I realize that this is way bigger than just 7,000 accounts.
Of course.
We're talking like there are so many things that you might not even realize that you formed a belief based on a Chinese psyop.
Yeah.
And that's not a conspiracy. Like they're finding this stuff left and right.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, you have to wonder if this is legitimate information, why was so much deception involved in feeding it to you?
Right. I mean, it was caught. Like, this was a psyop from China. It was caught. So if you hold this belief, you have to understand that now you have to go back and say, why did I hold this belief? Take the parts that were caught out of it and then look at the evidence again. Yeah. Because the evidence that was presented was made by the Chinese government.
Yeah.
Right. So then when you remove that and you say, well, they have a prerogative to want to disassemble and dismantle the U.S.
Yeah.
When you remove that from me, you say, what proof do we have now?
Yeah.
And you can actually you can use that kind of logic for a lot of things. If you're like, that either sounds too good to be true, or did China actually do this, or is it really that bad here? Right. And then you use that same logic. You zoom out and you say, where did that intent come from? Where did that article come from?
Yes.
Who talked about it?
Yeah.
Who spread it?
Why is it all over Russian state media and Chinese state media? And why is it being pushed by every single Chinese propagandist out there and also trying to be hidden? You know, that's the thing. There's more urine in that pool than there is water.
Yeah, almost everyone in there is peeing. There are many types of perverts.
Predatorial, salivating wolf. You perv.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Perv.
Drooling. Yeah, exactly.
And he goes, catching.
Yeah,
taking pictures. Look at his drool.
Yeah, it's like a drooling upskirt photo guy. Grope. He likes to grope. Yeah.
This is the official GIF of the CCP. That's an official
example of being a pervert. I like how he's got a magnifying glass. What could make that worse?
Definitely going all the way in.
Well, how about submersing us? I mean, that's next level. That's just.
When I take a breath, you fill up my lungs.